Okay, welcome to my first ever video. So today we're going to talk about three different things. Okay, so the topic of the video today is the importance of basic sketching. Basic sketching doesn't just apply to juniors or people who've just started drawing. It applies to everyone. Everyone right through to senior professional level have to think about their technique, and there's no harm in people who have been drawing for a while to look back at some of these techniques and think about, am I actually applying that to my my drawings? Okay, so the first thing I want to cover is just line drawing logic. Okay, the second thing I want to cover is just basic line drawing techniques, and the third thing I want to cover is just lines and circles. Okay, pretty basic stuff, but it's just a video to get people introduced into a style of drawing that would probably be beneficial for them to take on now, and it will benefit their drawing in the future. Okay, so like I said, this isn't just for juniors, this can be for seniors as well. To think about, am I using these techniques? And I'll explain further on in this video why these techniques are important. What we're doing a lot in DVC is just simple ideation, and so I try to get students into the habit of not spending so much time rubbing out what they're doing. Sometimes using ballpoint pen can actually be a great medium, because you really shouldn't be rubbing out the work you're doing. It's not about perfection, it's about producing a lot of ideas. Okay, and also what I'm about to explain now is gonna carry on with that fact. Now if we draw three dots, okay, just like this, if I ask someone to draw a line between one dot and the other, the general response is to go like this. Okay, it's a pretty good line, there's nothing wrong with that, that is a great line. If I said do it really well, then we grab a ruler, line it up between that dot, and then we draw a straight line. What I'm asking of you to do is to do this. It's not as good as the rest in some ways, because I was off that line a little bit. It's not perfect, it's not always going to be exactly how you want it. But the difference is that this line took 2 seconds to draw. This line took 3 seconds, if we take into account finding rulers, etc. And this one took half a second. Not so important in an hour-long class, but really important if you want to do really quick sketches. So think about this, okay? If it takes you half a second to do that line compared to 2 seconds to that line, that becomes important when you start drawing things, okay? So we're going to start drawing a simple cube, okay? The difference between making something take 2 minutes or take 5 is that, okay? So that's just a simple shape. But the difference is that if I ruled that, it would take me 3 times longer, 4 times longer. And if I did it like this, it would take me twice as long. In design, you're asked to come up with a lot of ideas. If you can find a way to cut the amount of time it takes you to do in half, you're already going to have a jump on everyone else. Okay, so being able to do the line really quickly, quite straight, is quite important. Which brings me to the second point. Okay, drawing lines. There's a very simple technique I use for drawing lines. It's to like this. Okay, so just give yourself 4 little dots. I often give myself little dots where I want to go to. Now, technique and how I draw is quite important as well. Okay, I have my hand in a comfortable position. The weight of my arm isn't on the table. Okay, for a general rule, think about it like this. If I keep the weight of my hand on my wrist, my line's going to be like that. If I use my elbow, it will be like that. And if I use my entire arm and all its complexity, I can get a really straight line. Okay, so that's one thing to remember. Try and keep your arm light. Okay, we're complex creatures. We can keep our arms off our off the table quite easily. It's lazy to rest your arm on the table as you draw. So you can touch the table and it can flow as we draw, but try and keep it light. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is, all I'm going to do is practice is drawing one line between that dot and that dot. I'm off, it doesn't matter. Don't redo it, leave it. What we're going to learn later on when we're sketching is that these original lines that we draw, they're rough lines. Later on, we'll go over these lines in better pens, define those lines better, but get used to just drawing one straight line when you mean to draw one straight line. I want you to practice now, just going from one side to the other, starting on one line, ending on the other, like that. Okay? Doesn't matter if you're doing pencil or whatever you've got around, just get used to that. Now try and keep these lines as close to each other as possible, quite far apart. Okay? So the whole idea I'm doing here is trying to keep these lines parallel. Okay? So each line, okay, is the same distance from the next line all the way across. Okay? Once again, keep my arm light. It can touch the table, obviously, it can flow across it, but I don't want to have my wrist resting on the table, otherwise it will lead to lines like this. Okay? So I keep these lines parallel, and I try and start on one line and finish on the last line. Don't get into the habit of doing this. It's not about that. It's about just a controlled line. Okay? Even if it seems hard now, even if it seems like you can't do it, you will get the hang of it. Okay? So you really need to do a lot of these. These are called practicing grids. Okay? And they practice you getting your eye in. Okay? The last technique I want to talk about is called the spider web. Okay? So basically what this consists of is understanding that you can get that line that you like after a lot of practice, but there's no need to move your entire body around. You've already got that good technique now. Get used to moving the paper. The paper moves just as easy. Okay? Just coming back to the middle. Okay? So I can get those lines straight, and now I want you to practice circles. Okay? And this is even harder, but same technique. Use the whole arm. Never just your wrist or your elbow. Never use the scratchy technique. It's quite easy to find yourself going like this to draw a circle. Okay? Find yourself above the paper. Okay? Just getting that circle in, and then do it. Okay? Try again. Then try it again till you think yourself you got a circle in the middle. Okay? Each time trying a little bit further. So let's try it again. Give myself a simple little spider web. You don't have to do the spider web. I'm just combining the whole idea of practicing circles with practicing lines. Okay? Right? So eventually you get better and better at those circles, and you'll be able to move them on from circles to ovals. Okay? Using lines and ovals, we can start to mesh out some of the basic geometric shapes that we can use for construction. And that concludes part 1 of basic drawing.